I was sitting in my kitchen when my son Daniel called on my 68th birthday. My heart jumped, thinking Head remembered. Instead, his cold voice cut through me like ice. "You should be grateful we still answer your calls," he said, then hung up. I stared at that phone, the birthday cake I'd bought myself sitting untouched on the counter. For 38 years, I'd been calling this treatment love, but sitting there in my empty kitchen, something finally broke inside me. It wasn't my heart. It was the chains I'd worn for decades. That phone call changed everything, but to understand why, I need to tell you how I got here. My name is Arianna, and for most of my life, I believed that loving my children meant giving them everything. When my husband Tom died 10 years ago, I thought I was doing the right thing. We'd built a successful real estate management company together over 30 years, starting with just one rental property and growing it into a business worth millions. Tom and I worked side by side, sacrificing vacations, working weekends, missing social events, all to build something we could leave our boys. After Tom's funeral, my sons Daniel, who was 28 then, and Patrick, 25, sat me down. They were concerned about estate taxes, they said. They'd done research. If something happened to me, the government would take half of everything Tom and I had built. Daniel had spreadsheets. Patrick had articles printed from financial websites. They seemed so responsible, so caring. "Mom, we should transfer the business into our names now," Daniel had said, holding my hand. "This way, when the time comes, everything will be protected. You'll still run everything, of course. Nothing will change except on paper." Patrick had hugged me then. "We just want to protect what Dad built," Head said, and I'd seen tears in his eyes. I'd raised them, loved them, trusted them completely. So I did it. I transferred the family business into their names. But I didn't stop there. I added them to my personal savings accounts, my investment portfolio worth $800,000, and even the deed to our family home, worth $450,000, fully paid off after decades of careful payments. I remember the day we signed the papers. Daniel hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "You're the best mother in the world," Head said. Patrick had promised, "Well, always take care of you, Mom, always." For the first year, things seemed fine. I kept working as the office manager, handling all the finances like I always had. The boys would come for Sunday dinners. They'd call to check on me. I thought I'd made the right decision. But then, 3 months ago, our company accountant, William, asked to speak with me privately. Had been with us for 15 years, knew the business inside and out. He looked uncomfortable, shifting in his chair. "Arianna, I need to show you something," Head said, pulling out financial statements. "I wasn't sure if you'd approved this." What he showed me made my stomach drop. Daniel had been paying himself triple the agreed salary for the past 3 years. Not just a small increase, but 3 times what we'd all agreed on when I transferred the business. The money that should have been going to company improvements, to employee bonuses, to our reserve fund, was going straight into his pocket. "This must be a mistake," I'd said, my hands shaking as I held the papers. William just looked at me sadly. "I'm sorry, Arianna. I thought you knew." That evening, I called Daniel. I tried to be gentle, understanding. Maybe there was an explanation. "Honey, I was looking at the books today, and I noticed your salary. Can we talk about it?" The transformation in his voice was immediate. Gone was any warmth, any pretense of respect. "My salary." Head laughed, but it wasn't a kind sound. "Mom, it's my company now. I decide the salaries. You should be grateful I even keep you on as an employee. At your age, who else would hire you?" "But Daniel, we had an agreement. The business needs that money for." The business needs me to run it properly. Head cut me off. You had your time. This is my time now. Don't forget, you gave us everything voluntarily. No one forced you. Id sat there, phone in hand, unable to speak. This wasn't my son talking. This couldn't be the boy Id raised, who Id taught to ride a bike, who Id sat with through countless homework assignments, who Id cheered for at every baseball game. Are you still there? Head asked, impatient. Yes, Id whispered. Good. Then we understand each other. Just do your job, collect your paycheck, and be grateful for it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every interaction from the past 3 years, suddenly seeing them differently. The way Daniel had stopped asking for my input on business decisions, how Patrick always seemed too busy to review the monthly reports with me, the gradual shift from Mom's company to our company to my company, in Daniel's language. I thought about Tom, what he would say if he knew. We'd built this business with our bare hands, starting with nothing but determination and love for our family. Now, it was being treated like a personal piggy bank by the very children we'd sacrificed so much for. The 6 months that followed my discovery about Daniel's salary were like watching my life crumble in slow motion. Each day brought a new humiliation, a fresh wound to add to the collection I was gathering like stones in my pocket. It started with the locks. I arrived at the office on a Monday morning, coffee in hand, ready to tackle the week's accounts receivable, only to find my key wouldn't work. I tried again, thinking maybe I had the wrong key. But no, it was the same key Id used for 15 years. Standing there in the early morning chill, I called Daniel. "Oh, right," he said casually, like he'd forgotten to mention the weather. "We upgraded the security system. Upgraded locks, too. Can you come let me in? Or tell me where to get a new key?" There was a pause. "I'll have Patrick let you in when he gets there. He usually arrives around 10. 10? But I always start at 7. You know that. Well, maybe it's time to adjust your schedule. No need for you to be there so early anymore." I sat in my car for 3 hours that morning, watching employees Id hired walk past me into the building. Some waved, confused. Others pretended not to see me. When Patrick finally arrived, he made a show of letting me in, speaking loudly so everyone could hear. "Mom, you really need to coordinate better with us. We can't have you sitting outside like this. It looks bad for the company." The company, not our company. The company. Patrick started screening my calls after that. Where once my sons would answer on the first ring, now I'd call 5 times before getting through. When they did answer, there was always that sigh, that tone of barely concealed irritation. "What is it now, Mom? Is this important?" "I'm in a meeting. Can't this wait?" But the worst part was losing my grandchildren. Emma, Daniel's 16-year-old daughter, had always been the light of my life. She'd spent summers with me, learning to bake Tom's mother's secret apple pie recipe, helping me in the garden. Ryan, Patrick's 14-year-old son, would come over after school sometimes, and we'd work on his science projects together. Then, suddenly, they stopped coming. When I called Emma, she was distant. "Sorry, Grandma, I'm just really busy with school." Ryan was more direct, in that brutal, honest way teenagers can be. "Dad says you're getting difficult in your old age. He says we should give you space." Difficult. Because Id questioned why Daniel was draining the company account. Because Id asked why my name was being removed from vendor communications. Because Id wondered aloud why I wasn't invited to the company Christmas party Id organized for 20 years. I decided to try one more time to reach them, to fix this. I planned a family dinner, spent the entire day cooking their favorites. The pot roast Tom had perfected, with the carrots cut just so and the potatoes golden brown, fresh bread from scratch, green beans the way Patrick loved them, with almonds and butter. And 3 pies, apple for Emma, chocolate for Ryan, and pecan for Daniel, because Head loved it since he was 5. I set the table with our good china, the set Tom's mother had given us for our wedding, lit candles, put fresh flowers in the center, roses from my garden that had been nurturing all season. Daniel was supposed to arrive at 6. At 6:30, I texted him, "Dinner's ready when you are. Can't make it. Business emergency." Patrick showed up at 8, the food cold, the candles burned down to stubs. He didn't apologize, just walked in scrolling through his phone. "Where's Jennifer?" I asked about his wife. "Couldn't make it," he said. Still not looking up. "What's for dinner?" I served him the reheated pot roast in silence. He ate mechanically, answered a few phone calls during the meal, and left before dessert. "Thanks for the food," he said at the door, already walking away. After he left, I sat at that table set for 6, eating alone, when my neighbor Margaret knocked. She'd been my friend for 20 years, seen my boys grow up. "Arianna, honey, can I come in?" She had that look people get when they have bad news. She sat down across from me, reached for my hand. "I need to tell you something. I was at Rosario's restaurant tonight." My heart sank. Rosario's was the expensive Italian place downtown. "Daniel was there," she continued, "with a big group. They were celebrating something, lots of champagne." I nodded, trying to keep my face neutral. "His business emergency must have resolved itself." "Arianna," Margaret pulled out her phone. "I'm sorry, but you need to see this." She showed me a video she'd taken. There was Daniel, raising a glass, laughing. The audio was clear, "To finally getting the old lady out of the way," he was saying. "She actually thinks we need her. Once we get her to retire completely, we're selling that house from under her. She'll never know what hit her." The men around him laughed. One clapped him on the back. "Brilliant man. Your mom still thinks you're her baby boy." "Oh, she has no idea," Daniel replied. "We've been planning this for years. Dad dying was actually perfect timing." I watched my son, my firstborn, the child Id carried for 9 months, labored for 18 hours to bring into this world, laugh about destroying me. Margaret was crying. I wasn't. I couldn't. It was like watching someone else's life on that small screen. "I'm so sorry," Margaret whispered. "I didn't know if I should tell you." "No," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. "Thank you for telling me. I needed to know." That night, I discovered something else. Going through paperwork, trying to understand how far this betrayal went, I found credit card statements for the company cards. Daniel had bought a boat, $45,000, golf clubs, $3,000, vacation packages to Hawaii, Mexico, the Bahamas, all charged to the company. When Id asked him last month why we needed to cut the coffee service for the employees, Head said, "Times are tight, Mom. We all need to sacrifice." Sacrifice. While he was buying boats with money Tom and I had earned with our sweat and tears, he was taking away the coffee from employees who'd been with us for decades. I pulled out more statements. Patrick wasn't innocent either. Jewelry charges, expensive restaurants, hotels. One charge stood out, a hotel in our own city. Why would he need a hotel here? Then I saw the pattern. Every Tuesday and Thursday, same hotel, same amount. My son was using company money to cheat on his wife. I sat surrounded by papers, evidence of my children's betrayal spread across my kitchen table like a map of broken trust. The grandfather clock Tom had restored chimed midnight. It'd been sitting there for 4 hours, piecing together the full picture of what my sons had become, or maybe what they'd always been, and I'd just been too blind to see it. The next morning, I drove to the office, determined to confront both my sons. I'd rehearsed what I would say all night. practiced staying calm, reasonable. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to present facts and demand answers. I found them both in what used to be my office, now transformed into Daniel's executive suite. They were laughing about something on Daniel's computer when I walked in. "We need to talk," I said. Daniel didn't even look up. "Mom, you're supposed to knock. I need to discuss the company finances with both of you." Patrick sighed dramatically. "Here we go." I pulled out the credit card statements, laid them on the desk. 45,000 for a boat, 3,000 for golf clubs, hotels, jewelry, vacations, all on the company cards. Daniel finally looked at me, and the expression on his face was one I'd never seen before, pure contempt. He started laughing. Not a nervous laugh or an embarrassed one, a genuine, from-the-belly laugh, like I'd told the funniest joke in the world. "Are you serious right now?" He stood up, walked around the desk, and picked up the statements. Then, with deliberate slowness, he tore them in half. "These are my business expenses." "Business expenses?" "A boat is a business expense. Client entertainment," he said smoothly. "Not that I need to explain anything to you." He walked to the filing cabinet, pulled out a folder, and slapped it on the desk in front of me. "You want to talk about documents? Let's talk about this one." It was the ownership transfer paperwork. He opened it to the signature page, ran his finger under my name. "See this? This means you work for us now, Mom. You gave us everything, remember? That was your choice. Your decision. No one held a gun to your head." Patrick joined in, seeming to enjoy this. "Honestly, Mom, at your age, you should be grateful we haven't put you in a home yet. Some kids would have dumped you there the minute you signed those papers." "A home? I'm 68, not 90. I'm perfectly capable of—" "Are you?" Daniel interrupted. "Because lately you seem pretty confused, forgetting your place, questioning decisions, making scenes." "I haven't made any scenes. I'm trying to protect the business your father built." "Our father's dead," Daniel said flatly. "This is our business now. And frankly, you're becoming a liability. Maybe it's time you retired." "You can't force me to retire. My name is still on the house. I still have rights." Daniel's smile was cold. "About that house." He pulled out another document. "Remember when you had that gallbladder surgery 5 years ago? You signed a power of attorney so we could handle things while you were recovering." My blood ran cold. "That was temporary. For medical decisions. Actually, if you read it carefully, and clearly you didn't, it's quite comprehensive. Patrick and I have been using it to clean up some of the mess you've made over the years. Simplifying things, the house paperwork is already in process. We're just protecting you from yourself, Mom. You're getting older, making poor decisions. Someone needs to look after your interests." "My interests? You're stealing from me." "Stealing?" Patrick laughed. "You can't steal what's already yours. You gave it to us, remember? Gift, tax-free transfer, all legal and above board." I felt the room spinning. These weren't my children. These were strangers wearing my children's faces. I raised you. I sacrificed everything for you. "And we appreciate that," Daniel said with mock sincerity. "Which is why we're letting you keep your little job here, letting you keep living in the house for now. You should be grateful." That word again, grateful. That evening, the stress finally broke me. I was sitting at home, trying to process everything when the chest pains started. Sharp, crushing pain that radiated down my left arm. I couldn't catch my breath. My vision blurred. Heart attack. I was having a heart attack. I called Daniel first. Habit, I suppose. Mothers always call their children when they're scared. "Daniel," I gasped. "I can't breathe. Chest pains. Please." I heard him sigh. That same sigh had been giving me for months. Mom, seriously? It's probably just indigestion. No, this is different. Please, I need to go to the hospital. Then call 911. That's what it's for. I'm not a doctor, and I'm in the middle of dinner. Daniel, please, I'm scared. Call 911, he repeated slowly, like I was a child. I have to go. He hung up. I sat there for a moment, phone in my hand, processing that my son had just hung up on me while I thought I was dying. Then I called Patrick. What now, Mom? He answered on the fifth ring. Patrick, I'm having chest pains. I think it's my heart. Daniel won't help. Please. Are you serious? You're calling me because Daniel wouldn't drop everything for your anxiety attack. It's not anxiety. This is real. Then call an ambulance. God, Mom, you're so dramatic lately. This is exactly what Daniel was talking about. You're becoming too needy. He hung up too. I drove myself to the emergency room. Somehow, through the pain and fear, I drove the 3 miles to the hospital. The last thing I remember clearly is walking through those automatic doors, telling the nurse my symptoms, and then collapsing. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed, hooked to monitors. A woman was sitting beside my bed, but it wasn't family. She was professionally dressed, maybe early 50s, with kind eyes behind designer glasses. Oh, good, you're awake, she said. I'm Susan Martinez. I'm an attorney. Please don't worry. You're not in any trouble. I was here visiting my mother, and I couldn't help but overhear your phone calls in the waiting room. I was confused, still groggy. My phone calls. You were trying to reach your sons while the nurses were getting you admitted. You had your phone on speaker. I heard everything they said to you. The shame hit me like a wave. This stranger had heard my humiliation. Susan must have seen it on my face because she leaned forward. Missus Thompson, what your sons are doing isn't just morally wrong. It's illegal. I specialize in elder financial abuse cases. Elder abuse? I'm not elderly. And they're not abusing me. They're stealing from you, isolating you, emotionally manipulating you, and now medically neglecting you. That's textbook elder abuse. Financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult is a felony in this state. But I gave them everything willingly. Did you? Or were you coerced through emotional manipulation? Were you fully informed of what you were signing? Did they misrepresent the documents? She pulled out a business card. You don't have to decide anything now, but when you're ready, if you want to fight back, call me. What they're doing, no child should do that to their mother, and legally, you have options they clearly don't think you know about. She stood to leave, then turned back. By the way, the doctor said you had a severe panic attack, not a heart attack, but it could have been one. The stress you're under is dangerous. Your sons should have called for help. That alone could be considered criminal neglect. After she left, I lay in that hospital bed thinking, my sons had left me to die rather than interrupt their dinners. They were stealing from me, planning to take my home, had already turned my grandchildren against me. And according to this lawyer, I had options. For the first time in months, I felt something other than despair. I felt anger, clean, powerful, righteous anger. They thought I was weak. They thought I was beaten. They were wrong. I met Susan at her office 3 days after leaving the hospital. She had a corner suite in a downtown building, walls lined with law books and photos of her with various civic leaders. This was a woman who knew how to win. First thing, she said, setting a recorder on the desk. Tell me everything. Every detail, every document, every conversation you can remember. For 3 hours, I talked. I showed her everything I'd managed to gather. Bank statements, the ownership transfer documents, the power of attorney, credit card records. Susan took notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions, her expression growing more serious with each revelation. Arianna, this is one of the worst cases of elder financial abuse I've seen, she said finally. But here's the good news. Your sons made mistakes. Big ones. She pulled up something on her computer. First, this power of attorney. It was specifically for medical decisions during your surgery. They've been using it for financial transactions. That's fraud. Second, I ran a check on the business transfer. Did you know they never filed the final paperwork with the state? My heart jumped. What? The filing fee was $800. Apparently, they thought it was too expensive or maybe just forgot. Legally, you still own 60% of the company. They've been acting as owners without actual legal standing. I couldn't believe it. Their greed and carelessness had given me an opening. Here's what we're going to do, Susan said, leaning forward. First, you revoke the power of attorney immediately. We'll file that today. Second, we document everything. Keep recording calls. Legally, you can in this state, with one-party consent. Save every text, every email. Third, we're going to forensic audit the business. And fourth, you're going to act like nothing has changed. Pretend I don't know. Exactly. Let them think you're beaten. Meanwhile, we build our case. Can you do that? I thought about my son's contempt, their cruelty. Yes, I can. Over the next 2 months, I became an actress. At work, I was the defeated mother, doing my job quietly, never questioning Daniel's decisions. When Patrick brought his mistress to the office, introducing her as a consultant, I smiled and offered her coffee. When Daniel announced at a staff meeting that he was considering restructuring that would eliminate my position, I just nodded. Meanwhile, I was documenting everything. I recorded Daniel telling an employee that I was losing it and would probably be in a nursing home within a year. I saved the email where Patrick discussed selling my house and putting me in the cheapest assisted living facility they could find. Somewhere she can't cause trouble. Had written. Susan hired a forensic accountant named Robert, who discovered even more than we'd expected. Over the past 3 years, Daniel and Patrick had embezzled over $400,000 through fake vendor payments, inflated salaries, and personal expenses disguised as business costs. They weren't just stealing from you, Robert explained. They were stealing from the company itself. That's wire fraud, tax evasion, and about 6 other federal crimes. But the most painful documentation came from an unexpected source. My granddaughter Emma showed up at my door one night, mascara streaked down her face. "Grandma, I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I know what Dad's been doing. I heard him on the phone with Uncle Patrick. They're planning something horrible." I held her while she cried, this 16-year-old carrying the weight of her father's betrayal. "What did you hear, sweetheart?" "Dad's been telling everyone you have dementia. Has got some doctor who will say whatever he wants for money. They're going to have you declared incompetent. The hearing is next week." "Grandma," he was laughing about it. "Laughing about putting you away." I stroked her hair, keeping my voice calm even as rage burned in my chest. "Do you know the doctor's name? Or when the hearing is?" She pulled out her phone, showed me texts shed screenshot between her parents. Dr. Gerald Morrison. The hearing was scheduled for next Thursday at 9 in the morning. They planned to ambush me at home, bring me in for an evaluation that was already decided. "Grandma, there's more," Emma said. I took pictures of documents in Dad's office. She scrolled through her phone. "Look at this." It was a contract with a real estate developer. They were already negotiating to sell my house, my home of 35 years, before they even had legal right to it. The closing was set for 2 weeks after the competency hearing. "You're not safe here," Emma said. "Please, You have to do something. I am, honey. I promise you, I am. After Emma left, I called Susan immediately. She was quiet for a long moment after I told her everything. They've just made this a criminal case, she said. Conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse, false imprisonment if they force you into a facility. We need to move fast. We spent the next week preparing. Susan filed emergency paperwork with the court, contacted Adult Protective Services, and reached out to the district attorney's office. The forensic accountant finished his report, documenting every stolen penny. I changed my will, leaving everything to charity except for education trusts for Emma and Ryan that their parents couldn't touch. I also did something else. I went to the bank where Tom and I had our first account, where Wed deposited our first paycheck from the business 20 years ago. The manager, Harold, had known us for decades. Arianna, I've been worried about you, he said when I sat down. The transactions on your accounts lately, they didn't seem like you. I explained everything. Harold's face grew darker with each detail. Those boys, he said, shaking his head. Tom would be heartbroken. What do you need? I need to freeze every account with my name on it. Every single one. Done. And Arianna? We have security footage of Daniel and Patrick coming in here, trying to access accounts without you. Would that be helpful? It would be more than helpful. It would be damning. The night before the planned ambush, I couldn't sleep. I walked through my house, looking at photos, Daniel's first day of school, Patrick's high school graduation, family vacations, Christmas mornings. When had those smiling boys become men who would destroy their own mother for money? I found our wedding album, touched Tom's face in the photos. I'm going to fight, I whispered. I'm going to save what we built, just not the way we thought I would. Thursday morning came clear and cold. I dressed carefully, my best navy suit, the one I wore to important business meetings. Pearl earrings Tom had given me for our 25th anniversary. I looked professional, competent, nothing like the confused elderly woman my sons were expecting. At 8:45, I heard cars pulling up outside. Multiple cars. I stood in my living room, spine straight, hands steady, and waited. The doorbell rang. It was time. I opened the door to find Daniel and Patrick standing there with Dr. Morrison, a greasy-looking man with shifty eyes, and a social worker holding a clipboard. Behind them, I could see 2 more cars in the driveway. They'd brought witnesses to my humiliation. "Mom," Daniel said with fake concern, "this is Dr. Morrison. Hez here to help you." "Help me with what?" "Exactly. We're worried about you." Patrick chimed in. "Your recent behavior, the paranoia, the accusations. We just want to make sure you're okay." Dr. Morrison stepped forward. "Mrs. Thompson, if we could just sit down for a few minutes. I have some simple questions." "Of course," I said, stepping aside. "Please, come in." They filed in, Daniel and Patrick exchanging satisfied looks. They thought I was playing along, that I was the weak, defeated woman they'd created in their minds. They were about to learn otherwise. As they entered my living room, they stopped short. Susan was there, sitting on my couch in her sharp black suit. Beside her stood 2 police officers and a man in a suit holding official-looking papers. "Gentlemen," Susan said, standing. Perfect timing. Daniel's face went white. "What is this?" "This," Susan said, "is what consequences look like." She nodded to the man in the suit. "Marshal Davies, please proceed." The marshal stepped forward. "Daniel Thompson and Patrick Thompson, you're being served with restraining orders and civil lawsuits for elder abuse, fraud, and financial exploitation. Dr. Gerald Morrison, you're being served with charges of conspiracy to commit fraud and falsifying medical documents. Dr. Morrison immediately started backing toward the door. I don't know what this is about. They just asked me to evaluate their mother. Really? Susan pulled out her phone. Hit play on a recording. Daniel's voice filled the room. $50,000. And you declare her incompetent. I don't care what she says or does during the evaluation. She's going into a home. Morrison's voice replied, For 50,000, I'll say she thinks she's Napoleon. The doctor's face crumpled. I want a lawyer. You'll need one of the officers said, stepping forward. Gerald Morrison, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud. As they cuffed Morrison, Daniel found his voice. Mom, you can't do this. We're family. Family. I stepped forward, my voice stronger than it had been in months. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't abandon you in an emergency room. Family doesn't plan to lock you away so they can take everything you've worked for. Patrick tried a different approach, tears forming in his eyes. Mom, please. Think about Emma and Ryan. You're going to destroy their lives. No, Patrick. You destroyed their lives when you chose greed over love, when you taught them that their grandmother was worthless, disposable. Susan handed them each a thick folder. Your assets are frozen, pending investigation. You're forbidden from entering any property owned by Mrs. Thompson or the company. The district attorney will be in touch about criminal charges. Criminal charges, Daniel's voice cracked. For what? Embezzlement? Fraud? Elder abuse? Conspiracy? Susan listed. We have everything. Every fake vendor payment, every personal expense charged to the company, every forged signature, $400,000 that you stole. You recorded us? Patrick asked, stunned. That's illegal. Not in this state, Susan replied smoothly. One-party consent. Your mother had every right to record conversations she was part of. The social worker, who'd been silent, finally spoke. Mrs. Thompson, I'm so sorry. I was told this was a legitimate welfare check. Clearly, you're perfectly competent. More than competent, Susan added. She's the victim here. Suddenly, Patrick's phone rang. He answered it, his face growing paler with each second. What do you mean frozen? That's my money. He hung up, turned to Daniel. The bank accounts are frozen. All of them. Daniel was frantically checking his phone. The company cards aren't working. The office is calling, saying the locks have been changed. Your mother is reclaiming what's hers, Susan explained. The company that you never legally owned, the accounts you illegally accessed, the property you tried to steal. Dr. Morrison, now in handcuffs, suddenly spoke up. This was all their idea. I have recordings too. Recordings of them planning everything. Daniel lunged toward him, but the officers stepped between them. You recorded us. Insurance. Morrison sneered. Looks like I'm going to need it. I'll testify to everything. How you plan to have her committed, sell her house, take her money, how you laughed about it. Patrick's phone rang again. This time his face went from pale to green. Marie found out about Sandra. Who's Sandra? Daniel asked. His Tuesday and Thursday appointment, I said quietly. The one he's been paying for with company money. Patrick stared at me, finally understanding. You knew. I know everything, I said. Every lie, every theft, every betrayal. The officers started moving toward the door with Morrison. Daniel called after them. Wait! This is all a misunderstanding. Mom, tell them this is a misunderstanding. I looked at my oldest son, remembered the baby I'd held, the child I'd loved, the man had chosen to become. The only misunderstanding was mine. I thought you loved me. I thought wrong. As they all filed out, Susan's assistant arrived with a locksmith. We're changing the locks now, Mrs. Thompson. Here are your new keys. Patrick made one last attempt. "Mom, please. I'm sorry. I was stressed, influenced by Daniel. You know I love you." "No, Patrick, I don't know that, but I know this. You're going to face justice for what you've done." As their cars pulled away, I stood in my doorway, Susan beside me. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from relief, from power, from the knowledge that I'd finally stood up for myself. "You did great," Susan said. "But this is just the beginning. They'll fight back. Let them try," I said. "I'm not the woman they thought I was, not anymore." That afternoon, word spread fast. My phone started ringing with calls from the business. Employees I'd hired, clients I'd worked with for years, all checking if the rumors were true. "Arianna, is it true the boys are gone?" asked Martha, our senior account manager. "Yes, Martha. I'm back in charge. Thank God," she said, and I could hear the relief in her voice. "We've been watching them destroy everything you and Tom built. We're behind you 100%. By evening, I'd heard from a dozen employees, all offering support, all sharing stories of how Daniel and Patrick had mistreated them. Mismanaged accounts, lost clients through arrogance and neglect. Several offered to testify if needed. Emma called that night. "Grandma, Dad called Mom screaming. She kicked him out. She says she's filing for divorce." "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I know this is hard." "It's not," Emma said firmly. "I'm proud of you. Dad got what he deserved. Has been horrible to you, to all of us. Mom's been crying, but not because she's sad. She says she's relieved." The next morning, my phone rang at 6. It was Daniel. "Mom," he said, his voice different now, desperate. "Please, we need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. I could go to jail, Mom. Your son could go to jail. My son," I said slowly, "would never have done what you did. I don't know who you are, but you're not the son I raised. You're really going to let them arrest us. I'm going to let justice take its course. Whatever happens to you is a consequence of your own choices." He was quiet for a moment. Then, in a voice I hadn't heard in years, the voice of the little boy who used to climb into my lap when he was scared, he said, "I'm sorry. Are you sorry for what you did, or sorry you got caught?" He didn't answer. That was answer enough. "Goodbye, Daniel." As I hung up, I realized something. For the first time in months, I wasn't waiting for my sons to call. I wasn't hoping for their love, their approval, their acknowledgement. I was free. The business was mine again. My home was safe. My future was in my hands. And my sons? They were about to learn what happened when you mistook kindness for weakness, when you confused love with submission, when you thought your mother was nothing more than an obstacle to your greed. They were about to learn that Arianna Thompson, the woman they'd dismissed and discarded, was stronger than they'd ever imagined. The next 3 months were like watching a house of cards collapse in slow motion. Each day brought new revelations, new consequences for my son's actions, and surprisingly, new allies in my fight for justice. The district attorney, a woman named Catherine Walsh, took the case personally. "Mrs. Thompson," she said during our first meeting, "I've seen too many elderly parents destroyed by their children's greed. Your case is one of the most egregious I've encountered. We're pressing full charges." The charges were serious: elder abuse, fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, and tax evasion. The forensic accountant had uncovered even more than Wed initially found. Daniel and Patrick hadn't just stolen $400,000. When you counted the inflated salaries, the hidden accounts, the fake vendors, it was closer to $600,000. The business community reacted swiftly. 3 major clients called me directly, saying they'd only stayed because of my reputation. We were planning to leave, said Robert Harrison, who owned a chain of medical offices we managed. Your sons were incompetent and arrogant, were relieved you're back. But it was the personal unraveling that truly showed the depth of my son's deception. Jennifer, Daniel's wife, came to see me 2 weeks after the arrest. She looked exhausted, aged 10 years in 2 weeks. Arianna, I'm sorry, she said, crying at my kitchen table. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know how bad it was. I found everything. The offshore accounts, the mistress, the plans to put you in a home. Mistress, this was news to me, has been seeing his secretary for 2 years, buying her jewelry with the company card. I found the receipts. She pulled out a folder. I thought you should have these for your lawyer. The receipts showed thousands in jewelry purchases, hotel rooms, even a lease for an apartment downtown, all paid with company funds. There's more, Jennifer said. I found emails between Daniel and Patrick. They weren't just planning to take your money. They were planning to cut each other out too. Daniel was setting up Patrick to take the fall if they got caught. She showed me the emails. Daniel had created a paper trail making it look like Patrick was solely responsible for the embezzlement. Meanwhile, Patrick had been documenting Daniel's affairs and questionable dealings, planning his own betrayal. They deserve each other, Jennifer said bitterly. I'm filing for divorce. I've already moved in with my mother. Emma refuses to see Daniel. She says she's ashamed to be his daughter. 3 days later, I got an unexpected visitor. Sandra, Patrick's mistress, stood at my door looking nervous. Mrs. Thompson? I'm Sandra Williams. I think you know who I am. I let her in, curious more than anything. I wanted to apologize, she said. I didn't know Patrick was using stolen money. I thought he was successful, legitimate. When I found out what Head done to you, I was disgusted. She pulled out a flash drive. Patrick kept records of everything on this. Offshore accounts in the Caymans, hidden assets, even a plan to frame you for tax evasion if you ever fought back. I thought you should have it. Why are you helping me? Because my mother is 72, she said simply. If anyone did to her what your sons did to you, I'd want someone to help her. Also, Patrick promised to leave his wife for me. Last week I found out he's been saying the same thing to 3 other women. The information on the flash drive was damning. Patrick had hidden almost $200,000 in offshore accounts. Had also been selling company equipment and pocketing the money, then reporting the items as stolen for insurance payouts. That was fraud on top of fraud. As the criminal case built, my sons turned on each other spectacularly. Patrick's lawyer contacted Susan with an offer. Head testify against Daniel in exchange for a plea deal. He claimed Daniel was the mastermind, that Head been manipulated and coerced. Daniel's response was immediate and vicious. He provided prosecutors with recordings Head secretly made of Patrick discussing the offshore accounts, the insurance fraud, even joking about hoping I'd die soon so they wouldn't have to deal with putting me in a home. Your sons are destroying each other, Catherine Walsh told me. They're doing our job for us. The community support was overwhelming. Margaret organized a neighborhood gathering where people shared stories about my son's behavior they'd witnessed over the years. The time Daniel had screamed at me in the grocery store parking lot. The day Patrick had left me stranded at the doctor's office because he forgot to pick me up. Small cruelties that painted a picture of long-term abuse. Martha from the office revealed that Daniel had tried to get her to forge my signature on documents. He said you were getting too old to handle signatures. I refused and he threatened to fire me. I've been documenting everything for 2 years, hoping you'd come back. Even the bank manager, Harold, testified in the civil case. I watched Mrs. Thompson and her husband build their business from nothing. These boys inherited a fortune and tried to destroy the woman who gave it to them. It's unconscionable. The breaking point came when Ryan, Patrick's son, asked to speak with me. His mother Marie brought him over, both of them looking worn down. "Grandma," Ryan said, his 14-year-old voice cracking, "I need to tell you something. Dad made me help him. He had me sign papers pretending to be you. He said it was a game, but I knew it was wrong. I'm sorry. My heart broke for this child, corrupted by his father's greed. It's not your fault, sweetheart. You were manipulated." Marie added, "I'm divorcing Patrick. I've been recording his phone calls. He's been hiding money from me too, planning to divorce me once he got your estate. He never loved any of us. We were just tools to him." The trials were set. Criminal proceedings for both sons, civil cases for the business losses. The evidence was overwhelming. But there was one more surprise waiting. Emma had been doing her own investigation. At 16, she had the tech skills her father lacked. She'd recovered deleted texts, emails, even found a hidden social media account where Daniel had been bragging about his plans. "Grandma, look at this." She showed me posts from a private group. Daniel had written, "Elder care is for suckers. Why pay for a nursing home when you can just take everything and let the state deal with them?" The responses from his friends were equally appalling. Advice on hiding assets, recommendations for corrupt doctors, even jokes about putting the old bird down. "I'm testifying," Emma said firmly. "Dad needs to face what he's done. That's a big decision, honey. It's your father." "No," she said with a maturity beyond her years. "My father was someone I thought I knew. This man is a stranger who happens to share my DNA. You're my family. You're the one who taught me right from wrong. And what he did was wrong." The night before the criminal trial began, I sat in my office looking at the family photos I'd once treasured. I'd taken them down, packed them away. The wall was blank now, waiting for new memories. "Better memories," Susan called. "Are you ready for tomorrow?" "I've been ready since the day they left me to die alone. They may try to manipulate you in court, play on your emotions. They can try," I said. "But I'm done calling cruelty love. I'm done accepting betrayal as family. Tomorrow, justice begins." I hung up and looked around the office Tom and I had built. It was mine again, successful again, respected again. The employees were happy. The clients were returning. The business was thriving under my leadership. My sons had thought me weak, disposable, irrelevant. Tomorrow, they'd learn exactly how wrong they were. Tomorrow, they'd face the woman they'd created through their cruelty. Strong, determined, and unforgiving. Tomorrow, justice would have its day. The courtroom was packed the morning the verdicts came down. 6 months had passed since that awful birthday phone call that changed everything. 6 months of legal battles, testimony, and evidence that painted a picture so damning even I was shocked by the full scope of my son's betrayal. Daniel went first. He stood as the judge read the charges. Guilty of elder abuse, guilty of fraud, guilty of embezzlement, guilty of conspiracy. 3 years in state prison, $500,000 in restitution, and a permanent restraining order preventing him from contacting me. His face crumpled as the bailiff approached with handcuffs. For a moment, just a fleeting second, he looked like the little boy who'd once cried when Head accidentally broken my favorite vase. But that boy was gone, had been gone for years maybe. This was a man facing the consequences of his choices. Patrick's verdict came next. Guilty on all counts as well. 2 years in prison, $300,000 in restitution. Head gotten a slightly lighter sentence for his cooperation. Though his testimony against Daniel had been more about saving himself than any real remorse. As they led my sons away, neither looked at me, but I heard Daniel whisper to his lawyer, "She really did it. She really let them take us." Yes, I did. Because that's what justice looks like. The civil case had concluded a week earlier. The company was fully returned to my control, all stolen assets recovered, and both sons were ordered to pay additional damages. Their houses, bought with stolen money, were being sold. Their luxury cars, repossessed. The boat Daniel had been so proud of was already gone. After the verdict, Catherine Walsh approached me. "Mrs. Thompson, you've been incredibly brave. Your case is going to help other victims of elder abuse find their courage." But the real victory wasn't in the courtroom. It was in what happened after. I restructured the company completely, promoting Martha to vice president and bringing in fresh talent who respected what Tom and I had built. Within 3 months, WED not only recovered our lost clients but gained new ones. Revenue was up 30%. I established the Thompson Foundation for Elder Rights, providing legal assistance to elderly people facing financial abuse from family members. Susan agreed to be on the board, and our first case was helping an 80-year-old man whose daughter had stolen his life savings. The house felt different now. Lighter, somehow. I redecorated, painting the walls bright colors Tom and I had always talked about but never gotten around to. I turned Daniel's old room into an art studio and Patrick's into a library. This was my home now, truly mine, not a museum to a family that had never really existed. 6 months after the trial, I hosted another birthday party, my 69th. This time, the house was full. Margaret was there, of course, and Susan, who'd become one of my closest friends. Martha and several employees from the company came. Harold, from the bank, brought his wife. But the biggest surprise was Emma and Ryan. They'd chosen to maintain a relationship with me, despite their parents' crimes. Emma had started volunteering at the Thompson Foundation, helping elderly people learn about their rights. Ryan was quieter about it, but he came for dinner every Sunday, and would work on his homework just like old times. Jennifer arrived with a homemade cake. Shed finalized her divorce from Daniel and was rebuilding her life. "Arianna," she said, "you saved us too." Emma and I were living with a stranger, and we didn't even know it. Marie came too, stronger now, enrolled in nursing school. "I spent 15 years dependent on Patrick," she told me. "Never again. I'm going to have my own career, my own money, my own life." As we sat around the table, Emma stood up. "I want to make a toast," she said, raising her glass of sparkling cider, "to Grandma Arianna. You taught us that love isn't letting people hurt you. It's not accepting cruelty or making excuses for abuse. Real love is respecting yourself enough to demand respect from others. You showed us that it's never too late to fight back, to reclaim your life, to start over. And," Ryan added quietly, "you taught us that family isn't just blood, it's the people who actually care about you." I looked around that table at my new family. Not the one I'd born and raised, but the one I'd chosen and who'd chosen me. This was what love really looked like. 2 letters arrived the next month, one from each son. From prison, they'd both written to me. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the envelopes for a long time before opening them. Daniel's was shorter. "Mom, I understand now what I did. Prison gives you time to think. I destroyed everything Dad built, everything you gave me, for money that's now gone. I destroyed my family, my freedom, my future. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I know what I lost. Not the money or the business. You, I lost you. And that's the real tragedy." Patrick's was longer, more emotional. I lie awake at night thinking about that day you called from the hospital. You thought you were dying and I wouldn't come. What kind of son does that? What kind of man? I see other inmates here talking to their mothers on the phone, their mothers who still love them despite everything. You don't call. You won't ever call again, will you? I understand. I killed your love. I killed it with greed and cruelty and betrayal. Marie won't let me see Ryan. Emma won't talk to me. I have nothing and no one, and I did it all to myself. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry, but I know sorry isn't enough. It will never be enough. I read both letters twice, then filed them away. I felt no satisfaction in their suffering, but no sympathy either. They'd made their choices. Now they were living with them. One evening, as I was closing up the office, Martha asked me something no one else had dared to ask. Do you think you'll ever forgive them? I thought about it for a long moment. Forgiveness isn't forgetting, Martha. It's not pretending the betrayal didn't happen. Maybe someday I'll forgive them for my own peace, but forgive them enough to let them back in my life? No. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt, and shouldn't be. A year after that birthday phone call, I stood in front of a conference room full of elderly people and their families, speaking about elder financial abuse at a Thompson Foundation seminar. The hardest part, I told them, is accepting that people you love are capable of hurting you. We make excuses. We call it stress or misunderstanding or tough love. But abuse is abuse, whether it comes from a stranger or your own child. A woman in the front row was crying. Later, she told me her daughter had been draining her accounts for years, and she'd been too ashamed to do anything about it. You're not alone, I told her, holding her hands. And it's not your fault. Love doesn't mean accepting abuse. Remember that. Life moved forward. The company continued to grow. The foundation helped dozens of families. Emma got accepted to law school, inspired to become an advocate for elder rights. Ryan was thriving in high school, free from his father's toxic influence. And me? I learned to live again. I traveled to places Tom and I had always planned to visit. I took art classes, something I'd always wanted to do but never had time for. I dated, briefly, a nice widower named James who Margaret introduced me to, though we ultimately decided we were better as friends. I was happy, genuinely, peacefully happy in a way I hadn't been in years, maybe decades. The constant anxiety of waiting for my son's calls, hoping for their approval, walking on eggshells to avoid their anger, it was all gone. 3 years after the trial, Daniel was released on parole. He sent another letter, asking if he could see me just once. I thought about it for a week before responding with a single word: no. Patrick got out 6 months later. He didn't write. Emma told me Head moved to another state, was working in construction, living quietly. He knows better than to contact you, she said. I made that clear to him. Sometimes I wonder what Tom would think about everything that happened. Would he be disappointed that our sons turned out this way? Would he be proud of how I fought back? I like to think He'd understand. We'd built something together, and I'd protected it the only way I could. The story ends where it began, in my kitchen, on my 71st birthday. But this time, the phone rings, and it's Emma, calling to wish me happy birthday before her morning classes. Ryan texts a funny birthday meme. Jennifer stops by with flowers. Margaret brings lunch. Susan takes me to dinner. My phone never stops ringing all day, but now it's filled with voices of people who truly care about me, people who see my worth beyond what I can give them financially, people who love me for who I am, not what I own. That night, I sit in my peaceful home, looking at new photos on the walls. Emma at her law school orientation, Ryan at his science fair. The Thompson Foundation's first successful case celebration. My new life, documented in pictures of real joy, real connection, real love. I think about that woman who sat in this same kitchen 3 years ago, accepting crumbs of affection from sons who despised her, calling their cruelty love because she didn't know she deserved better. That woman is gone. In her place sits someone stronger, wiser, and free. Someone who learned that the greatest act of love sometimes is refusing to call abuse by any other name. Someone who discovered that losing toxic family members isn't a loss at all. It's a liberation. My name is Arianna Thompson. I'm 71 years old. My sons stole my money, my trust, and years of my life. But they didn't steal my spirit. They tried to bury me, not knowing I was a seed ready to grow into something they never expected. A woman who would stand up, fight back, and win. The fortune I protected wasn't just monetary. It was my dignity, my self-worth, my right to be treated with respect. At an age when many people are slowing down, I discovered I was just getting started, and that's the greatest gift I could have given myself. To anyone out there accepting cruelty and calling it love, letting family members destroy you because you think that's what family means, please hear me. You deserve better. It's never too late to fight back. It's never too late to choose yourself. It's never too late to stop calling abuse by the name of love. Your family might be your blood, but that doesn't give them the right to bleed you dry. Stand up, fight back, reclaim your life. You're stronger than you know. Trust me, I learned that at 68, and it changed everything. What would you do if the people you loved most turned against you for money? Would you have the courage to fight back, even if it meant losing them forever? Share your thoughts below, and if this story touched your heart or opened your eyes, please like this video and subscribe to hear more stories of triumph over betrayal. Share it with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone, that abuse isn't love, no matter who it comes from. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, you are worthy of respect, of real love, of a life free from abuse. Never forget that. Never accept less.